Welcome back to Beyond Bandwidth, Leviton's podcast series where we dive into network technology's hottest topics. I am your host from Leviton Network Solutions, Roy Chamberlain. The discussion for this series is centered around DAS, and today I am talking with Leviton's manufacturer's rep for Boston, Massachusetts, Mike Lester from Triumph Marketing. Welcome to Beyond Bandwidth, Mike. To start off, can you just give us a little bit of background on Triumph Marketing and what you guys kind of do on a daily basis?
Yeah, thanks for asking, Roy. I'm glad to be here. Triumph Marketing started 27 years ago, and we're a manufacturer's rep firm, and we are mostly involved in the premise cabling market. About 3 years ago, we got involved with a company that does passive DAS, and has migrated also into active DAS and something that we refer to as hybrid DAS in the meantime. But on a daily basis, what we do is, as a direct marketing firm, we try to drive demand back to the manufacturers for who we represent to get our products preferred when they're bought. And we do this at various levels, contractors and influencers in that market, distributors, end users, and consulting firms. And depending on who we're calling on, they have different influences on, again, the products that are going to be purchased in a particular project or on a day-to-day basis. And we focus on what their needs are there and try to satisfy their needs. And again, get preferential call-outs when it comes time for those buying decisions. We want to drive that back to the manufacturer's products of who we represent.
Where are you seeing the market going? Obviously, you're in it every day. And I know, because I've worked with you, right? We've worked together for years. So I know DAS and that system is important for you driving all kinds of business, right? Where do you see the market going with DAS, since you've gotten into that side of the business and where it is today?
DAS has become a bigger thing almost on a daily basis. And for many reasons. I think the biggest reason is when people used to bring their cell phones to work, it was probably looked at from the hierarchy in those organizations that somebody, if they're on their cell phone, is not working because your cell phone was for personal use. But now people are bringing their own devices to work. It's become really their only mode of communicating with the outside world and with work, coworkers, and anyone that you need to do regarding your job on a daily basis. To the point where if it doesn't work, now you can't work. Because buildings are built like Faraday cages, cell phones tend not to work in buildings, especially newer buildings that have low E glass. So the cell signal from outside does not penetrate the glass at all. Nowadays, from things that I've read and heard, there's more people communicating on cell phones from indoors than outdoors. And when we go back to the origination of what a cell phone was, it really was a car phone back in the day that was tethered to your car itself. You couldn't even remove it. So basically, people are only using those things when they're on highways and, on streets. Now we have to have an ability to pipe the signal into these buildings that are built, as I said, like Faraday cages, where you tend not to get cell service that's able to penetrate, the roof, the walls, or the windows anymore.
When you're working with distributors, contractors, end users, who are the people who are bringing these opportunities to you? Like, who's asking you for DAS? Are you getting it from the end user, or are you getting it from the distributor, or a combination? What are the types of people who are getting this requirement from either their company or the contractors getting it from their contacts?
So this is a relatively new market for us. We've been doing this for about 3 or 4 years now. And the longer we've been doing it, the more people from different walks of life or in different types of capacity are coming to us with this. When we first picked up the line that we have, which is Wilson Pro of Wilson Electronics, in this area, at least nobody had ever heard of them before. So we had to basically educate the market on what it was and what problems it solves before you get people that actually realize that they even have a need or that there's even something that can solve that need. Since then, and as the word gets out, I would say everybody in those verticals has been coming to us for help. What we did originally is got to consulting engineering firms and explained to them how this thing works. So as they're talking to their clients in the very early stages of new building construction or tenant fit outs, old construction type of stuff, they're coming to us and asking us if we can assist them in putting together a specification, a design, a bill of materials that they can present at the bid stage for their end users. So when they move in, there's no worry that they're not going to have their cell phones work on the public network when they're inside. That is kind of manifested itself into now you have to have people that need to install this stuff. So we've developed an ecosystem of contractors who we've taught how to do this. Some of them knew how to do it already. And now they see an opportunity to do this. So now they're starting to more proactively sell it. As things tend to go, we sell through distribution. So distributors are now starting to get a taste of, wow, this is good business. It's people need it. The sales cycle sometimes a little bit longer, but if you put in your work now, it's going to pay dividends in the not so distant future. And they're starting to get excited about it because it's a new revenue stream for them. And again, everyone's excited about it because you really are solving problems for the end customer.
So you talk about the consultants and engineers putting it on specs. How are they getting it on the spec, or how is that getting created? Because every DAS system is fairly proprietary, right? They work within their own components. What specific details are they able to put in there, or how do you see that coming out on the Division 27 or another division?
Yeah, what they're putting on the division is sometimes you'll get a performance spec. It's our desire always to have the specification that includes our part numbers, or at least a mention of our company, since we're the ones doing the upfront work. But basically, we're making it as easy can be by helping with initial site surveys, taking some signal readings, and then getting it to the engineering department of Wilson, who does the design, the layout, creates a bill of materials, and gives that to the consulting firm, which can just put that in their documents. We also have language for Division 27, so we also have the text, not just the drawings and the other things that I just mentioned previously.
And so what kind of parameters for a performance spec are in those specs? Are there certain types of criteria that most of the passive DAS systems come within?
Well, what we'll see a lot of times is putting language in there that people can understand without really having to have a degree in physics. So we'll talk about the carriers that need to be supported, the channels that need to be supported, and things of that nature. But all of this type of stuff comes under FCC Part 20, which dictates the functionality of these types of passive distributed antenna systems. Then we throw some text in there. So when it hits Division 27, just like anything else that's in a specification, it gives the people who are going to be installing this thing specific, obviously, instructions on what it needs to look like, what their expectations are during the installation, what expectations are when the thing gets turned on at the end.
So on a side note, you're a big Celtics fan, and they were successful this year. Do you have any comment about how many minutes Steve Kerr put Jason Tatum in for the Olympics?
I think I do. And what I know is going to happen is the couple of games that we'll be playing the Warriors. I'm saying we. Now I'm all of a sudden with the Celtics, right? That's how we think sometimes, especially when things are going well. We're circling the couple of games we're going to be playing the Warriors. And you know that those three guys especially, Derek, Drew, and Jason, are going to have the best games of their season against those guys, because I think Steve Kerr did ice them a little bit, and I didn't like what I saw at all. It was disgusting, if you ask me.
Yeah.
What do you think?
I agree. It's interesting how these guys take advantage. You know, they kind of have the upper hand, and they take advantage on the big stage to kind of push their point, right? Mm-hmm. Or whatever their issues are. But I know you keep track of them pretty good. That was definitely big news for the Olympics.
Yeah. Now we're splitting hairs. We're obviously a little biased in that regard, but
yeah,
you look at the players. How do you find time for all those guys? You know, you look at what happened at the end of the gold medal game. Steph Curry did what Steph Curry does. You know, how do you argue with LeBron getting the minutes?
Yeah, that was pretty amazing what he did at the end of that game.
They probably could have evened up the minutes a little bit and been fine. But again, that's me as a Celtics fan.
So back to DAS. So if I'm a Leviton contractor, right, and I'm doing structured cabling and whatever little pieces, that I have within my toolkit to provide to customers and clients, how do I get involved in this? How do I get a little take? Because I know that there's integrators, right? Do regular just structured cabling contractors become integrators, or how does that work?
Yeah, they could. This is not a very complicated system. So in a matter of looking at the first design that you see, a little dog and pony show that we do in person, people grasp the concept if they're not already aware of it pretty quickly. But we do a lot of hand-holding to get people to the point where, the first one is going to take them a little more time than the second one, and that'll take a little more time than the third one, and so forth. But most of the people that want to get into it and want to spend a little bit of time on how to learn how to do it, and also spend a little money with a meter that you need to start the process and picking up outside signal on the macro network to make sure that the starting point is good. That's the first thing we need to do. If you don't have good outside signal, it's not going to work inside properly. But people are looking at it as, again, a new revenue source. For us and for them, it opens up doors of opportunity that might not normally be open to you, meaning getting into end users especially. And then while you're there, introducing them some of the other things that you sell. And that's the biggest plus for us, is there's a direct correlation between selling a Wilson fiber DAS system and pulling through the Leviton fiber cable and then the connectivity that's appropriate. But at the same time, making new relationships and having more customers that are looking at us, again, as a valuable resource to helping them affect their businesses in a positive way.
So you mentioned fiber. I know a lot of the current passive DAS systems are copper, and that's kind of the way they've gone. Are you seeing more of a push for the fiber-based systems?
So where we're introducing fiber-based systems is if there's a lot of people in a building, if the distances in the building is large, especially if it's large, I want to call it longitudinally, spread out, because there is bandwidth restrictions of coaxial cable. So we're introducing fiber in places that's appropriate there. And we have a solution that is active DAS, where it accepts the circuits, fiber circuits from the carriers or any RF source, that is, as well as an input for our coaxial amplifiers. So if we have a situation where carrier circuits are not available, or as we know, it takes some time for carriers to actually go through their approvals and all that type of stuff and actually bring a physical circuit to a location, you can take off-air signal through our donor antennas outside of a building, funnel it to our amplifier through coax, and then from there, the fiber DAS, active DAS products is what you use to branch everything out throughout the building on fiber to our remote units and indoor antennas. So we've got 3 different levels. We've got coax only, active DAS only, and what we call a fiber DAS hybrid solution that gets people from needing something right now because this scales, but it's also gets installed as quickly as you can get the cable in the building, basically everything connected, to the point where carriers are now bringing circuits in. So basically, in that case, you would just unplug the amp, plug in the circuits from the carriers, and the infrastructure stays the same. You don't have to do anything differently.
You have a migration option for clients if they want to get that infrastructure in place ahead of time.
100% correct, yes.
What are the biggest obstacles that you're dealing with system when an installation's been completed, or even before it's been completed? What kind of obstacles, issues come up, whether they be external or from the infrastructure? What do you deal with mostly?
Yeah, no, so the thing is pretty bulletproof. If it's designed properly, installed properly, and number one, if the cell service outside, the quality of service, the quality is good and the signal is strong enough. And again, that's the first thing that we check. If that's not sufficient, then we don't recommend this solution. That's the starting point. After the fact, when you turn it on, it works immediately. And actually, the dog and pony show that I do, I have a working system, and I've actually taken a donor antenna and dropped it out of a window, a basement window, when we're in a high school, for instance, and they don't have cell service, and I connect everything together, which takes about 5 minutes, and instant service. So that drives the point home that this will work as quickly as you can just plug everything together. Obviously, the time constraint is getting it in the walls and the ceilings of a building if it's a building that exists. But if it's designed correctly, as soon as you turn it on, it's working. Sometimes minor tweaks need to be made, maybe adding an antenna, moving a couple of antennas. Sometimes the building material or furniture or something might not have been planned for being there, so it gives us a little more loss in a building. But the biggest thing that I've heard, if there's people struggling, our first recommendation is just to make sure they turn off the Wi-Fi calling on their cell phone. That way, this system will take over, usually spot on and ready to go at that point.
Yeah, well, that's good advice that you've learned, right, from doing this. So besides building materials, are there other things that can interfere with this signal? Have there been in facilities that have machinery or things like that? I mean, are there other signals that can get in the way?
The biggest thing is physical obstructions.
Okay.
Again, on the roof, when you have donor antennas, you want those pointing at the strongest signal. And sometimes you're in the middle of two cell towers or whatever. But again, we make sure we zero in on those, and we've got multiple antenna sophistication that we can point in 3 different directions if 3 different carriers are actually coming from 3 different directions. So that's pretty cool. But we want line of sight. We don't want a lot of, especially metal or any other obstruction. Haven't had any problems with any motors or things of that nature, although it'd be a good idea to avoid that type of stuff. And then inside of the building, it's construction stuff. If you're in a warehouse, obviously empty shelves in a warehouse are going to be a lot easier for signal to go through than if they're full of paper towels or something like that. If you're in a grocery store warehouse or something like that, because that would absorb energy. But those are the types of things we have to account for, as well as air. If somebody's in a 40-foot ceiling, we're not going to put a ceiling antenna way up in the ceiling where there are any people using their phones. We're going to put wall mount antennas down low on the walls, so the signal's closer to where the people are, because every 10 feet of just air drops your signal by 3 dB, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it's basically cutting your signal in half. So if you think about air, 10 feet of just air cutting your signal in half, imagine what, a row full of paper towels or, going through a block wall, or even a sheetrock wall is going to obviously have a lot more loss in it than if you're in a wide open cube farm, for instance. But those things are all taken into account when we're calculating, again, number of amplifiers, how far apart the inside antennas can be, and things of that nature. So when we have the thing installed, all of the pluses are added into the arithmetic. All of the losses are also subtracted from the arithmetic. Then we need to make sure that our signal, again, the power of it and the quality of it, it's nice and clean, and again, gives you a quality of service that you would expect if you were outside of this particular building.
Good. So any of the installations that you've been doing over the last few years, is it primarily just for cell phone use, or do you have any clients who are using this service for other types of use?
Yeah, so it does anything that your cell phone would do. So it's LTE, it's 4G. We have 5G. We have different channels that we can boost that aren't necessarily everyday things that people need, but they are available. We do have the technology to do first responder bandwidth, although we haven't been selling it for that at this point. But to answer your question, without really being specific, yeah, we can boost the signal of anything that needs boosting that's outside The question is we have to make sure that it's something that's within the FCC rules and regulations and things of that nature. Because they even limit you on how much power you can create inside, because they don't want signal that's inside getting back outside on the macro network and causing a phenomenon called oscillation. So those rules are pretty much...
Yeah, and I mean, the devices would have to be aligned with and configured for those specific carriers, either way, whatever types of devices they were.
The system is agnostic, so whatever is being broadcast is going to be boosted and picked up if you have a device that picks up those particular signals on those particular bands.
Well, Mike, this has been great. It's always good to talk to you. Thank you for joining us. I hope we get the chance to do it again, and go Celtics, right? I can't wait to see those Warrior Celtics games coming up this season.
Me neither. Circle the calendar.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Thanks, Roy.
Beyond Bandwidth is a podcast series produced by Leviton Network Solutions. For more information on the topics we talked about today, as well as other enterprise or data center network infrastructure content, or to check out all available episodes of Beyond Bandwidth, visit us on the web at leviton.com/beyondbandwidth, or wherever you normally listen to podcasts. If you enjoyed this episode, we'd appreciate you leaving an honest review in your podcast application. Along with word of mouth, leaving a review will help others find our show. I'm Roy Chamberlain, and this was Beyond Bandwidth. Until next time.